From the creators who brought you RuPaul's Drag Race and $1 Million Listing, this is World of Wonders Wow Report. Things that make us go wow.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of the Wow Report, where we count down the top 10 things of the week that made us go wow. That's right. I'm co-founder of World of Wonder, Fenton Bailey. It's been a few weeks, joined by James St. James.
I'm back, baby. I'm back.
We are reunited, and it feels so good. And Tom Campbell is out on special assignment. So this week, Blake Jacobs joins us.
I'm here.
Yay.
I don't think Tom wants anything to do with me. That's what I'm getting at.
Oh, please. You have a story to tell. I'm here to hear it. Just a quick reminder, you can see James St. James is what he's going to be talking about in a second by watching the Wow Report for Radio Andy on our YouTube channel. So you can listen here, but you can also watch us making all sorts of mistakes, making faces with little bits cut out, all the mistakes, blah, blah, blah. All right, so let's start with the countdown. Number 10, James.
Number 10.
Yes, I'm going to be number 10. I know it's heresy to be talking about Donna Summer the week that Tina Turner passed away, and we will get to Tina very shortly. But there's a documentary on HBO Max, or Max as it's called now, called Love to Love You Baby. And it's pretty spectacular. You forget how just pure that voice was and how well those songs stand up. And it's told by her daughters. So there's a lot of behind the scenes footage, a lot of home movies, a lot of recordings we've never seen before. It's interesting, you know, the Donna Summer story and the story of disco, and you have all this wonderful footage of gay discos in the 1970s that just blow your mind. Just there's like the Ice Palace, and you know, just places that out in the pines of just queens going bananas listening to her music, and it's a lot of fun. Interestingly, though, I watched about the first hour and then I switched away to watch something else. And when I came back, HBO had switched over to Max and I was locked out. And for the life of me, I could not download Max onto my Roku and I couldn't switch over from my HBO. It was driving me crazy. So I never got to see the last 40 minutes of the documentary. Now, did you see it?
I have not seen it, but I was talking to someone who, funnily enough, started to watch it and was loving it. And similarly, didn't get locked out of Max, but just didn't finish it. They went off to something else. So,
well, the thing is, though, because one of the most interesting things about Donna, the least likable thing about Donna, is that she was a good Christian woman and she allegedly hated the gays. And for somebody who made her career off of the back of the LGBTQ community, and I don't think that it goes into that at all.
Oh, interesting.
Because you know, her daughters did it, so this is like hagiography. You know, this is building up the mythology. And I don't think, but I would like someone at some point to discuss that, because it is an interesting dichotomy to have somebody who is a gay icon who did not like the gays.
Well, that's interesting too, because it's directed by Roger Ross Williams, the head of the doc branch of the Academy, who's also himself an Academy Award winning documentarian who made a film about Uganda. So he's no shrinking violet when it comes to, you know, the issues that we face. But I also imagine that the sheer joy of seeing the archive and hearing the songs is enough to carry you for a while.
It is, well, especially because it opens up with
How could it begin?
And it just goes on, and literally she just is orgasming for the first 20 minutes of the doc, and you're in heaven.
I remember, did the theme from The Deep, did that come first before Love to Love You Baby?
What was the theme from The Deep?
It was like you know, one of those sort of Jaws related books. But it was like deep inside, and a lot of moaning, you know.
Okay.
And
well,
Love's Unkind is a favorite for me. Love's Unkind.
Oh yeah.
Da-da,
I mean, there's so many.
da-da.
I do remember when Love to Love You came out. We were not allowed to listen to it when it came on the radio. My dad turned it off. That was as dirty as you could get. It was shocking at the time.
I
But
should know this. Is she still alive?
no, she passed away. Gosh, 10 years ago. How long did she pass away?
It's been since I've lived out here and been at World of Wonder, because I kind of like rediscovered one of her songs. It's like a 90s song or late 80s song that was done by Waterman, Atman.
Kim Waterman.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of it. I'll find it before we finish this, but
All right. Well, that is Love to Love You, Baby, streaming on Max. So make sure you sign up for your new account.
I'll tell you. I talk about.
Are you in
glitchy.
now? Did you get in, or are you still
No,
locked out?
I still can't figure it out. I've been trying to do it for 3 days now.
It's funny because I had all sorts of problems with my HBO Go now. I could never get into it, and it was just the most problematic thing. So,
the song was This Time I Know It's For Real.
Oh, this time I know it's for real. Yeah. Good stuff.
well, James, if you have any more thoughts about it, you can jump back because you're also doing number 9.
Number 9.
Number 9. Well, I just wanted to just talk a little bit about the hellscape that is my life.
Let's address the elephant in the room.
Yes, I'm dying. I was at DragCon and I was loading in and I was talking to some fans who had camped out to watch to see the queens load in and out. And so I went over and I was talking to them. And as I was backing up, there were these like cement, like cinder block things. And I tripped over it, went ass over apple cart. Everything went in slow motion and I could see the trees and the skies and the clouds. And then I heard a crack and I thought to myself, is that my head or my arm? Because both of them had shooting pain. And that's the last thing I remember. And when I opened up my eyes, I'd been out. I was knocked unconscious, and there was a crowd of people around me, and some of the people from the Staples Center were there to make sure that I was not going to sue.
The convention center, yeah.
Yeah, they were very concerned. And did I need an ambulance? And my sister was there, and so we said no, and she drove me to Cedars-Sinai. Well, let me just tell you that Cedars-Sinai, bless them. I mean, they're a fantastic hospital. The doctors there are absolutely fantastic. I love them. But I was in the emergency room for 9 hours. And every time I moved, I heard my arm was just dangling from its socket. And all I heard was crack, 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 crack every time I moved. And I went to go, and of course, doctors being doctors, when I was getting x-rays and MRIs and all that stuff, they're just grabbing it and pushing it here, pushing it there. And I was screaming and shouting. It was just awful. And so I had a concussion and I broke my bones in 2 places, my radius and ulna. I think it's just the 2 little bones right there. And so I have been in a cast this past, 2 weeks now. And when I tell you the 3 S's, shit, shower, and shaving, are absolutely impossible. And I am stinky and disgusting. You have no idea. Yes.
Shit, shower, shave, and shag. How about that?
No, bless. If someone would come over here and try and shag me, we probably could not do it. But I don't think that one's going to happen.
Well, James, with your arm in a sling, I was going to say this is a different kind of sling than you're normally used to.
James, I tell you, I've been trying to talk James into getting, for some reason on Facebook, I saw this thing that you put it on your hand and it's a shaver, like, for your face.
Yeah.
It has like that on it and you just go like this. And I clicked on it one time to see how much it was, to see if I would just gift it to James. But, it was a little too much. But now I just get ads on Facebook for these head shavers. And
that's all it is.
There.
I want to sort of show you, because they have this weird robotic thing that I have on my, it's a robot arm. It's like a bionic arm that is impossible. It has this wheel that you have to click on to rotate the different angles of it. And it is so hard, and it doesn't really. It's just the whole thing is I'm lying in pain all day long.
Oh, James, I'm sorry. Did they give you any medication for the pain?
Well, they gave me some hydrocodone, but I hate hydrocodone because it just makes me cross-eyed and cranky and itchy. I just itch because I guess it's like heroin. It's it's like an opiate. So I took those for the first 2 days, and then I switched over to like a high ibuprofen, an 800 milligram.
Well, okay. Number 8.
Number 8.
I do want to change the tone slightly because a couple of days ago, it was the first year anniversary of the Uvalde massacre in Texas, where 19 children and 2 teachers were murdered in a classroom by a gunman. And of course, that is just one of many mass shootings that have become all too common. In fact, in the years since, I think I read today, there's been 360 mass shootings since, which is just beggars belief. Or
it's more than one today. It really is.
It's more than one a day, yeah. But what I wanted to talk about today was I read an article this morning that just had me in tears. It was about Shimon Prokupez, the CNN reporter.
I just want to say very quickly before you start, watching Shimon Prokupez's coverage of Uvalde, he is, I mean, it's Pulitzer Prize winning. It's unbelievable, the heart and depth and the way he has covered it is just amazing. So keep going. I'm sorry.
Well, James, that is exactly what I was going to say. Oh. That's the whole point of this piece, is to pay tribute to his reporting and his team, because he after he was his grandmother had just passed away, and he had just been covering the racist killings at the supermarket. And when he first heard about Uvalde, and he was on the scene pretty much immediately. But this is the thing, not just immediately, and not just in that aftermath when the media is there and everyone's there talking about it. The entire year, he has been there time and time again doing these heartbreaking reports, because I think it's fair to say he was one of the first people who smelled a rat in terms of the way they were presenting what had gone down. In this article, he describes them at the first press conference talking about the person being barricaded in, and just thinking that was very odd in a mass shooting thing, that the person would barricade themselves. And then I think the next piece of information was a sort of timeline of like how long it was before they entered the classroom. And things just didn't add up. But he went at it like a terrier and confronted the mayor, confronted the police, and
all the while building relationships with the families.
Yes.
And not just being there as a reporter, but being there as a loving supporter. It's just
as a real person, as
a real person. And so he has managed to straddle both the professional and the personal in a way that I have never seen a reporter do before.
Exactly. And he, in this article, which is on CNN.com, we'll post the link, he talks about how this was his first time interviewing families of victims, because it hadn't been his role before that. He'd just been like fact-checking, kind of court reporting type stuff. This was a whole new role he was thrust into. And he, just took the bull by the horns and wouldn't be fobbed off, and like called the bullshit for what it was. I mean, just incredible. And then I've only seen bits of it, James, but there's Anderson Cooper, The Whole Story. They did an hour special in which one of the things is he plays tape that they came into possession of the police, the authorities waiting in the corridor until they got into the classroom. And it's just so moving. It's not gory or exploitive, and it's sort of heartbreaking that none of the authorities in Uvalde would play this material or show this material to the families. So Shimon and his team get them together and say, do you want to see this? And it's just so powerful. And so incredibly frustrating that nothing really substantive has been done since.
And that after Uvalde, that the people of Texas still voted Abbott back into office again when they had the opportunity to, change governors and change leadership.
Yeah.
And, that Beto O'Rourke didn't get in. It is frustrating to see the climate in Texas, even after all of these, consecutive things. I do just also want to say that, for as much as I personally have been bagging on CNN and talking about how they've been moving to the right and the changes in leadership there and everything like that, the fact that Shimon is the bright spot there, that he is someone that is,
I mean, I would just say to Chris Licht and his asshole overlords that they need to do more of what Shimon is doing and less of the other shit that
less Trump town halls and just give Shimon that 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. spot and just let him do and watch him grow and do other stories. And I'm someone who is invested in his career for now and for all time.
Well, they won a Peabody for the reporting, and just on another sort of personal note, it's very sad that just recently his mother passed away. So he lost his grandmother and his mother all while covering the story, and I can't really imagine the personal. I think it really comes across the personal trauma of covering these stories, but also just anyone who's around this it's so heartbreaking, and it just is boggles the mind that they're more worried about drag queens and books than guns. Anyway, I didn't mean to bring it down, and but I just think Resistor of the Year, Shimon Prokupez, and give him every award you can find. Let's take a quick break. Blake, do you have a question?
I do. What actors perfume/cologne smelled like pus, blood, fecal matter, and sweat on the set for their latest role? It was just revealed at Con.
Very good. Thank you for that repulsive question.
I saw poop and I thought of you too.
Oh, thank you. We'll have the answer right after the break here on the Wow Report on Radio Andy.
You're listening to World of Wonders Wow Report. Things that make us go wow.
Hey, welcome back to the Wow Report. I'm Fenton here with James St. James, who's returned from his accident. Yes. One-armed bandit. And Blake standing in for Tom, who's on special assignment. I'll just remind you before we get the answer to the question that new episodes of RuPaul's Drag Race All-Stars 8 Fridays, Wow Presents Plus outside of the US and Paramount Plus here in the States.
So I asked, what actor's perfume/cologne smelled like pus, blood, fecal matter, and sweat for their latest role? They just revealed this at a press conference in Cannes this week.
I've got to believe that it's probably Helen Mirren.
It's definitely not that guy in the Barbie movie, so I don't know.
Ryan Gosling?
Yeah.
No,
I would smell his pus and fecal matter.
Was it supposed to smell that way, or it was just came out that way?
It was, because it was Jude Law. He is playing Henry VIII in the new movie. What is the name of it? Firebrand. And towards the end of his life, his leg was rotting and everything, and people just stank back then, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, he went to some perfumier who usually makes wonderful scents, and she made this awful scent
I love it. I want it. I probably already smell like that right now anyway.
Yeah, you do. I can smell it from
a little
here.
bit like method acting. I mean, like acting in a movie. Like what? Like
yeah.
What an odd choice, though. What an odd choice for Jude Law to be Henry VIII. That's so bizarre. I don't see him as it.
I could see it. Look at that Holbein portrait. He's got if it was, the face is so bloated, but like cute.
Yeah. Oh, I guess he was cute in his younger days too, and Jude was cute in his younger days. So there you go.
We are counting down the top 10 things that made us go wow. Blake, number 7.
Number 7.
Well, last week I told you guys about going to the Just Like Heaven Festival, remember, at Brookside at the Rose Bowl. This week, it had changed from, the niche millennial music festival into Cruel World, which is mainly 80s goths. We saw ABC, we saw Animotion, we saw Gang of Four, Billy Idol, Echo and the Bunnymen, Berlin.
Oh my God.
And just as we were watching the Human League, they announced that they had seen lightning far off, so everyone had to leave. And one got
How
to
far
see.
into Human League did you get? Did you get Don't You Want Me and the Lebanon and no?
What songs did they play?
They hadn't done really anything that I knew. I was waiting for Human. I wanted to hear Human.
Only human.
Yeah.
Fascination's my favorite.
Yeah,
Make me feeling fascination. Did ABC play Be Near Me? Be near.
They sure
Oh,
did.
that song makes me cry every single time. I love it so much.
ABC was my favorite.
Millionaire.
They did all the hits.
Ah, love it.
Gold, you are gold.
Well, so anyway, they canceled it before Iggy Pop and Siouxsie Sioux had taken the stage. This was Siouxsie's only tour stop in North America.
Well, I've heard that the Siouxsie concert, because she did it like in Belgium or something recently, and it is songs that she hasn't sang in 20 years, that this is like one of the best, that if you ever see Siouxsie Sioux live, that this is the time to see it.
Well,
didn't it have a rain date?
It did. It was the very next day. So I was all hungover, of course, because I didn't tell you guys. We brought in these binoculars. Me and my friend Steven, we both bought binoculars, and both sides of the binoculars held like a bottle of booze. So we had like binoculars that we were like, gulp, gulp, gulp. And then we had like suntan lotion bottles that had booze in it. And we bought this air couch thing that like, it looks
that
like
you filled that with beer.
No, it looks like a big vagina. And you like open up these like 2 chambers and you like run and put air in it and then close it really fast. And then like roll it up, and then it makes this air thing, and it was big enough for me and Steven to sit on it. So we're sitting there like for all day in the hot sun. I got sunburned and drunk on our air couch at Cruel World and watched
your vagina flap air couch.
On our vagina flap air couch, watching hot goths walk by all day. It was really
I imagine the crowd was just fantastic.
It was. At one point I was like, oh my God, look, there's Robert Smith. But it was just like
everyone looked like Robert Smith. Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, there's Siouxsie Sioux. Yeah, everywhere. There's 100 of them.
Yeah. It was really fun though. I will totally go back again next year.
I've never seen Echo and the Bunnymen either. The Killing Field. What is that song they did?
The weird thing is they were on the big stage and they had no like camera visuals on them.
Oh.
The whole time it was just like their logo or whatever.
Because he was cute boy back in the days. He was a hottie.
Well, maybe that had something to do with it,
Goths are definitely in town because the Cure played the other night, I think, as well.
Right. The Cure played the other night at the Hollywood Bowl. So it was, a crazy week for goths.
Oh, well, better luck next year. Let's move on to number 6.
Number 6.
Revisiting Streetcar Named Desire on Turner Classic Movie, and I was hoping that Tom would be here for this one because it's so fascinating. I've seen it probably 100 times in my life. Have you seen it 100 times, Fenton?
No, I sort of seen it, but
Okay.
I never have, so tell us about it.
Okay. The thing is it's Vivian Leigh, who is Scarlett O'Hara, and this is 20 years later, and she is a broken down, man-hungry, faded Southern belle, right? Who comes in to stay with her sister and her brutish husband, played by Marlon Brando. And this is Marlon Brando's big screen debut. And she is easily what Blanche Devereaux was based on. Blanche Dubois is her name. and she is la di da, and she's putting up like little lanterns all over the place, and she's wearing little silk. I mean, she's just pretentious as fuck, and he sees right through her from the very beginning. He knows that she was a whore and she got run out of town, and that's why she's staying with them, right? And the thing about it is like Sunset Boulevard or some of these other camp classics, they have been done by drag queens and memed to death and done in cartoons, and gays have been quoting it forever and ever and ever. And I have always relied on the kindness of strangers, is what she says as she's being led away to the loony farm at the very end of the movie. But it's not as camp as you remember it. It's real. I mean, it's Tennessee Williams, so it's going to be camp. But the most interesting thing is Marlon Brando, who is sex on a stick. You have never, it is, every scene is just of his sweaty armpits, of the sweat glistening on his muscles, of him licking his lips. It's close-ups of his lips. It is pornographic. You get the armpit hair, you get the bulges, you get ass shots. It's just, the camera is eating him up. It is a gay porn fantasy, and there's no way you can watch it. Watching it now, you are shocked that this is the 1950s, that they are literally, like, when you look at him, what is it the kids say about you would do it until the room stank so bad that the paint peeled off the walls? I mean, that's what you get when you look at Marlon Brando. And you have all these rumors of him being bisexual, of him, with James Dean, and you think of the triumvirate of James Dean, Marlon Brando, and Elvis Presley in the 1950s during that repressed time, and how the panties were just flooded every time you saw him. And it's in the climactic scene, spoiler, 70 years later, but he rapes Blanche. The wife is away, and he shuts the door and he rapes her, and she loses her mind. She's so delicate and sensitive that when he rapes her, that's when at the very end, when they come to take her away to the loony bin, and she's like, "I've always relied on the kindness." It's because that he raped her. But you are with him every step of the way, even though he's this brute, he's this lout, he's this horrible, like, violent man, and he's a horrible, horrible person. But Marlon Brando is so damn sexy that you are, even after the rape, you are still thinking, damn, the camera just eats him up.
And why did you watch it again?
Well, because I've been doing a lot of these movies that we've talked about it over the past couple of weeks, about how revisiting these movies that probably could not be
Never
made
be
today.
made again.
Yeah. And this is one of those ones where, because it ends in this violent rape, this just act of just horrific violence. And like I said, you are with him up until that point. And even afterwards, you can separate the character from the actor, and you can just say, this is one of the greatest screen acting roles of all time. It's one of the great screen debuts. Like, never in the history of films, before or since, has there been an actor who has just been, like, I mean, immediately, just the minute he goes on screen, you are like, like, you cannot believe how. And I don't think that you could have a movie anymore with that kind of pornographic lusting for someone who is so clearly a bad person. Now everyone has to pass a purity test. You can't be rooting for bad people the way you were rooting for Stanley Kowalski.
Be the same, I guess, with Last Tango in Paris also, which came towards the end of his career.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, we talked about that. And it's interesting to see how Marlon's career sort of went from that sexy, just, I mean, to the bloated mess from, like, Island of Dr. Moreau and Apocalypse Now and Last Tango in Paris and Godfather.
So that is Streetcar Named Desire, streaming on Turner Classic Movies, or if you're not James St. James, streaming on Max. All right, number 5.
Number 5.
The Dodger Sisters. Get it? Get where I'm going with this. So every year the Dodgers do a pride game, right? Big,
Yeah.
and I guess it's a big thing. I'm not really a is it baseball?
Yeah.
Okay. So if you can tell, it's not my... So this year they had the brilliant idea to honor the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence, who, James, tell us, just give us
the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence have been around since 1970, 79. I mean,
79.
79, yeah. And they are basically they started in San Francisco. They're primarily based there, but they dress up in outrageous like nuns, but they are known for their good deeds and their charitable acts, and they are revered within the gay community as being someone, especially during the AIDS crisis. They were there. They have always been there for their community. And for what happens next was an assault on the LGBT
right, because they were the Dodgers decided to give them a Community Hero Award at this game, June 16th, to honor recognize their community service, as James says. And then people objected, hands thrown up in horror, more, drag queens are pedophiles, all that.
They're groomers. The drag queens are, they're Satans.
And so the Dodgers said, quote, given the strong feelings of people who've been offended by the sisters' inclusion in our evening, and in an effort not to distract, blah, 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 they decided to uninvite them and withdraw the award. This is thanks largely to Senator Marco Rubio, that awful person, and various Catholic groups who claim that it mocks Christians through diabolical...
And yet, realistically, they are more Christian than many of the Christians out there, because they really are devoting their life to service.
As is almost invariably the case.
Yes.
I want to know why all of a sudden we give a shit what other people think. Like, now is the time for people to not be caring about money and putting their money where their, morals are.
It's also
like Target is doing the same thing.
Oh, well, yes. I was going to say related.
Yeah.
Talking about crater traders, like people who basically just give up at the moment someone objects. And Target have a line of 2,000 items, including gender fluid mugs. I'm not quite sure what a gender fluid mug is, or like how it manifests.
It is funny that they said that they were tucking bathing suits for little boys. Like, no, nobody's having tucking bathing suits for children.
Apparently they have a tag that reads tuck friendly construction and extra crotch coverage. What is wrong with that? Like, how is that offensive?
Yeah, but it's for adult bathing suits as well. I mean, but also, the thing is, because, all the book mannings, it's come that you hear about across the country, turns out that it comes down to 11 women who have been band together to get the book. It's not millions of people crying out about this. It is 11 people that are influencing the entire library system of the country.
Are you referencing the Million Moms? Because there was never a Million Moms.
No, it's not the Million Moms.
It's like that, though.
It is like that, yes, where they've identified that it is literally just 11 people who were doing every school system in every public library. But I do want to say that, then they recapitulated and re-invited them back, and everything is all now.
It has a happy ending. This one does have a happy ending. They invited them back.
Does it? I mean, really? Yes, they invited him back, and everybody said, "Oh, that you're doing the right thing." But why did you do it in the first place?
Exactly.
Failure of nerve, I guess. I mean, and I think we're all going to have to get used to, like, someone says boo and everybody jumps. And I think that this is not what we should be doing. I mean, related is some prides have been canceled in Florida, in St. Cloud, outside of Orlando. Tampa Pride on the River has been canceled.
Well, if you recall, a year ago, I said on this show that is the end game for all of this drag hysteria, is that they are going to be canceled. They're coming for the Pride parades. They do, all these laws about you can't be in public, blah, blah, blah. All of that was meant to stop gay Pride parades. And we're seeing that unfurl all across Florida now, and probably, Tennessee and Kentucky.
Well, interestingly, I mean, this is a tiny example, but there is a sort of anti-drag thing in Wilton Manors, of all places, and the city commissioner there is going to the Pride Parade dressed as Lady Vote. So, because they're saying, the anti-drag law against performing in drag, but doesn't mean you can't be out in drag. Doesn't say anything about.
But that is the next step, and that is the one in Kentucky. I think that's what it was, where you can't be in public because you can't expose children to men in makeup.
It's all exactly. They're coming for us.
It's like the satanic panic of the 80s. Remember? Yeah, it's stupid, and fuck all of them.
Thank you. Big Frida Means Business is premiering on June 7th, 9 p.m. ET on Wow Presents Plus outside the US and Fuse TV here in America. Very excited because Big Frida, as you know, is the voice in Release Your Soul, that fabulous sample of the Beyonce single. And we've done many seasons of Big Frida before, and there's been a hiatus, but now Big Frida's back. Badder than ever. Yeah, let's take a break. Blake, we got a question?
I do. Who does our boss, Andy Cohen, regret not ever having on Watch What Happens Live?
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. We'll have the answer right after the break here on the Wow Report on Radio Andy.
You're listening to World of Wonders Wow Report. Things that make us go wow.
Welcome back to the Wow Report. I'm Fenton here with James and Blake. Tom is out on special secret assignment. What was the question?
Our dear boss, Andy Cohen, has recently come out and said who he regrets not having on his late night show, Watch What Happens Live on Bravo. Who was it?
Well, I would maybe think that because Anna Nicole has been in the news again, and what I wouldn't give to watch Andy Cohen interview Anna Nicole Smith, that would just be fantastic for me. But it's probably not. But what can you imagine that interview?
Tina Turner, maybe.
Oh, that's a good one. It was actually Meghan Markle. She was a big fan while she was on Suits and really wanted to come to the clubhouse, but
he has been on Meghan Markle's podcast.
Right. I think that's kind of what brought this up.
Ah, right. And congratulations, Andy, on his new book, The Daddy Diaries.
Oh, yeah. It looks really fun, doesn't it? The cover is fantastic. Yes. You and he both win the cover war, cover battle, I think. Both of you have really fantastic book covers.
Oh, sweetie. Thank you. James has just plugged my book, Screen Age, which is available where all fine books are sold. All right, let's move on. We're counting down the top 10. We've reached number 4.
Number 4.
That's me. I think Fenton is really going to love this new house I'm going to talk about this week. Beyonce and Jay-Z. Have you heard they bought a new humble abode in Malibu?
I heard the outrageous price, and they paid cash, is what I hear.
They paid $200 million in cash, but the gag is it was listed as the most expensive house in the U.S. at $295 million. I'm guessing since they offered cash, they just accepted a third of,
Well, that's a bargain then, right?
But Fenton, you know that this is a brutalist compound. It was. The architect behind the project is Tadao Ando.
Oh, right. And is it brand new?
It's not. They bought the house from, let me see, what is his name? Billy Bell Jr. And he is of a hefty soap opera legacy.
Oh, yes, the Bells. Sure. They did Young and the Restless and Bold and the Beautiful and all that. Yeah. Laura
in Another World. He and his wife built it. It's in Malibu, Paradise Cove, which is also known as Billionaires Row. 30,000 square feet, all concrete digs. I'll post a picture of this.
It's not that big for 200 mil.
Well, it's on Billionaires Row in Malibu. So
Well, when you think about Kanye and Kim's brutalist cement bunker that they had and how awful that was, a place to raise the kids, I just feel like it's like you're living in a crematorium or something. I don't know. But Fenton, could you live in a brutalist house?
Oh no, I could not. I mean, I like
I'd love to
my
know you
taste
love
for
them.
brutalism is when it's completely camp and off the rails, like 70s brutalism, where they just built ridiculous, like top-heavy concrete things with sort of it was. And I still, but James, I couldn't live in it. I would like have to put wallpaper up everywhere.
You
know?
follow the brutalist Instagram. There's some brutalist.
Yes, I follow many of them. Yes, I do.
There's the one building. It's the Russian ballet company, and it's like a giant slab with no windows. You know the one I'm talking about?
Yes, makes me hard just thinking about it. But my taste, I think, runs more to like Rue's modest palace at the moment. You know, sort of big, sort of Instagram friendly, bold colors,
No,
disco
Fenton,
miracles.
but the thing that I love about your house is that it's like a Nottingham cottage. It's very much like British with the ivy climbing up it's very homey. You have a very homey home.
I'm a hobbit. I'd like to live in a hobbit house. That would be my personal favorite.
Yeah, no, because I always imagine that that you would have one of those big garish camp houses.
so much.
But then when you actually did get your house, and it's such a homey home that it's
a homey home for a homo.
It's the homiest 30,000 square feet I've ever seen.
I bet they won't even live there.
Well, that's just it. The pair, like in 2017, they bought a Bel Air compound for 30,000 square feet for 88 million, and they're keeping it. And that's on top of Hampton's estate they bought for 26 million, like a month after they bought the Bel Air estate. So they're doing pretty well. And I think Jay-Z, I've read recently, was worth 2.5 billion, and Beyonce's worth 500 million something, but is expected to rake in over $1 billion for this Renaissance.
I was going to say, I think she's on her way to billionaire status.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, how come he's worth so much more than she is?
Business ventures, like I think he has a couple of liquor brands.
Oh, right. Yeah, and
he's
got the streaming.
He also has the clothing companies, the Rockaware, what is it? And then he manages every band on the planet. Or he's producing.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Yeah, and he's got the Spotify. What is the Spotify thing he has?
It was. I don't know. Tidal. I don't know if it's still around.
Tidal. That's it. Tidal.
I will post an Instagram of this really beautiful infinity pool that, like, it's just concrete on both sides and it looks like a lap pool, and then the Pacific Ocean is behind it. That is a pretty shot. So
love it. All right. Number 3, James.
Number 3.
Well, the big news coming out of Cannes was the thunderous ovation that Killers of the Flower Moon got. Yes?
I thought the big news out of Cannes was Jude Law's perfume that I asked.
Anyway, the Killers of the Flower Moon is Martin Scorsese's 3.5-hour movie about the Osage tribe killings in the 1920s, the murders that happened with the Osage tribe. And they are saying that this is Leonardo DiCaprio's best role ever, that this is the crowning achievement of his career. And when you think of his career, and I'm just going to say, oh dear, wait, hold on.
Romeo and Juliet from 1996.
Well, Romeo and Juliet, Basketball Diaries, This Boy's
Eating
Life,
Gilbert Grape.
Eating Gilbert Grape, Marvin's Room, Romeo and Juliet, Wolf of Wall Street, Gangs of New York. I mean, he's really had Titanic. Well, I'm sort of Man in the Iron Mask was my favorite. I love that one. But they're saying that this is without a doubt that he is going to it's his Oscar to lose. Basically, they're also saying that this is Martin Scorsese's career best too. And when you think of his from Mean Streets and Taxi Driver and Raging Bull, I mean, that's saying something that they think that this is his best. They're also saying that Jesse Plemons, Meth Damon,
It's what's her butt's husband?
yes, Kirsten Dunst, right?
Kirsten Dunst.
Yeah, it's her. They say that he's absolutely fantastic. John Lithgow, Brendan Fraser, Robert De Niro, everybody is said to be fantastic, and that Lily Gladstone, who is by this time next year, she is going to be the biggest star on the planet. Now, so you're thinking that it's Leo's Oscar, it's Oscars all around for everybody, but then the other big news coming out of Cannes was Oppenheimer. And that's the other 3.5-hour movie about, the making of, was it the atomic bomb and all of that with the Oppenheimer? And they're saying that Cillian Murphy, that this is the best he's ever been. Forget Peaky Blinders, forget the Scarecrow in Batman, movies. That this is that we are coming down to Cillian versus Leo at the Academy Awards, and it's going to be a battle royale unlike anything since Betty Davis and Gloria Swanson battled it out in 1950, and we all know what happened then.
Why do we have to have any 3-hour movies?
Because
why is Wicked cut into 2 parts and this isn't?
Well, I can't answer that, but my question is we all remember what happened when All About Eve, Betty Davis went up against Gloria Swanson for Sunset Boulevard. Do you know what happened, Fenton?
No.
What happened was it split the Academy. Some people went with Gloria, some people went with Betty, and neither one of them won. And Judy Holliday swooped in and won for Born Yesterday, which in any other year would be fabulous. But can you imagine neither woman, Gloria Swanson or Betty Davis, and neither one of them win because they split? And that just might be what happens again, where the Academy splits between Cillian and Leo, and someone else will get in.
Leo hasn't ever won, has he?
Yeah, he won for The Revenant after all that time. Remember the bear.
Right.
But he didn't really deserve it for that. That was sort of a career,
Right. Like I remember it was probably you saying they gave it to him because
of Wolf of Wall Street and Titanic and everything else.
See.
Yeah.
Well, Killers of the Flower Moon is out on October 6th, and we can judge for ourselves. Although, when is Oppenheimer out?
I think it's December or something like that. But you can see the trailer for Killers of the Flower Moon that just dropped this week as well. And
on the Wow Report.
Yeah.
Well, let's move on. Number 2. I'm sorry to talk about this one more time.
Number 2.
But soon we won't be able to talk about it at all because Succession will be over and done with and finished. So this week, spoiler alert, we had the funeral of Logan Roy, which I found shocking in itself because I thought he died ages ago. And I was like, he's not buried yet? What's going on? But apparently the way the series works is each episode is just a day or so. It's not like, so it's just been one hell of a week for the characters in Succession in these episodes of the last season. James, you think we're going to tussle over the funeral?
Oh my God! I'm so scared of where you're going to say. I am so terrified of you right now.
Here's what I'm going to say. To me, the best moment of television I have ever seen in my life was when Lady Caroline Collingwood grabbed Kelly, Logan's mistress, and brought her to the front and connected her with Marsha. And all Logan Roy's women sat in a row in black. And there's this moment where Lady Caroline Collingwood, who's perhaps the harshest, and for that reason, my favorite character in the entire series, where she's like, it's all water under the bridge. And there's a moment where Marsha, who has hated Kelly, the ingenue, the newsreading ingenue, Marsha takes Kelly's hand and holds it. I was in floods of tears that moment, and only that moment.
Kelly is she's sitting there. She's about to lose it, and the other two bitches are just sitting there, in their funeral finery and everything like that. But there's that great line where she says something about, well, at least he won't be grinding his teeth anymore, and all three of them are instantly connected in that joke that only those three women on the planet know that about him. And it's a great moment where you see that all of a sudden they all have that in common, and everything else sort of falls away for just those few seconds.
And
yeah,
because there's just so few moments of genuine love and affection in the series.
yeah.
And this is a moment where these women find each other and all their differences are left behind. And there's a moment of love, which, coming from as someone as cold and flinty and I dare say cunty as Lady Caroline Collingwood who was Logan Roy's first wife or second wife, I can't remember. But anyway,
But
so James,
I do want to just say that first of all, you see Kieran Culkin, you see Roman practicing his eulogy, and it's all quippy and funny, and he's got his little jokes in there and everything like that. And as he's practicing, you're thinking, he's never going to deliver it. He's not going to do it. You just knew that something was going to happen. And then when the brother gets up before him and gives that devastating, just that cruel, like just laid bare the horror that this man was, and you see Roman saying, I can't follow that with my quippy little thing. And he gets up there, and to me, one of the saddest moments I've ever seen was when Roman starts to break down on the stand, and he's like, and then he says, is he in there? And he says, is my dad in the coffin? And he points to the coffin, and then they have to lead him off because he's just sobbing. That to me was just give him his Emmy, because between that and the other episode where he was watching Alexander Skarsgård piss on the mountain, remember that? And he lays into them there. But then again, on top of that, then you have Kendall getting up there and doing that thing that Kendall does, where all of a sudden he pulls out of his ass this eulogy that is one for the ages, and he's just extemporizing. He's just making it up as he goes along, and it is just brilliant. It's like when he was doing the thing in the episode that you loved before,
Living Plus. Yes,
the Living Plus, where he just it's where does that come from? Because he's such a loser and an idiot, and then all of a sudden he just can pull it out of his ass and make the world stop.
Yeah, Blake.
Yeah,
Blake doesn't watch it. He has no idea what we're talking about.
It's funny. I'm a cold person because I didn't feel for Kieran. Like it was like toe curling that he was blubbing and everything. I love the line when someone, I guess it's at the reception, someone says to him, "Hey, it's the Grim Weeper, Tiny Tears." It's so awful.
Well, that's one of the Madden people, or one of the what is the
the Gojo.
Yeah, and to me, the guy with the bearded bear, who is sort of his flunky, Skarsgård's flunky, one of just the nastiest characters I've seen in a long time. Just they're all just awful.
Oh, but I do just want to say, going back to Lady Caroline Collingwood, I love it. I'd forgotten that she has a terrible relationship with her three kids, particularly Shiv, her daughter, because she left when they were young. But do you remember it was, I think, previous season where Shiv and Lady Caroline get to have a chat, and it all goes horribly wrong. And at the end, Lady Caroline says she should never have had children and should have just raised dogs instead. It's like horrible.
And the thing about Shiv too is that we know that Shiv is pregnant, and every time you see her, she's got a glass of champagne in her hand, and she's chugging champagne. And then when she was with Skarsgård and she was doing bumps of K with it, and you're like, you are pregnant. What are you doing? And is it because she has no intention of keeping the baby? Is that what's going on?
I don't know.
Or is she just going to be as bad a parent as her mother?
We've got to wrap it up. How many episodes do we have to go?
One. This week is the last one.
Well, James Cromwell says it is nothing short of miraculous, the ending. He says it's the best ending he's ever had anything to do with in his life.
We've with Lost, with Game of Thrones, like there have been some crappy endings of some great series.
Right.
So they better not screw it up.
Right. Gosh, I'm exhausted. Let's take one more break. And when we come back, we'll reveal the number one thing this week that made us go. Woo-hoo-hoo.
Oh.
You're listening to World of Wonders Wow Report. Things that make us go wow.
All right, welcome back to the Wow Report. It's Fenton here with James and Blake, and Tom is out on assignment. It's a really sad reveal this week.
Number one.
Not one,
No.
but two.
Two, and Tina Turner, and we can talk about Tina Turner, but I did want to quickly mention that we lost Kenneth Anger, the great underground filmmaker, the gay icon, who did Scorpio Rising, Lucifer Rising, so many in the late 50s, early 60s experimental movies. He also wrote Hollywood Babylon and Hollywood Babylon 2. There was a great story that I saw today on the internet in which Amos Poe, the underground filmmaker, was saying that he was on a plane once to Rome and he was seated next to Kenneth Anger and he was really excited to spend like 9 hours talking film with Kenneth Anger, and Kenneth Anger just shut him down. It wouldn't talk to him at all. And at one point near the end of the ride, as the plane's about to land, Kenneth Anger goes to the bathroom to freshen up. And when he comes back, he has this overpowering scent on, and
More poo.
yeah, well, that's it. And Amos Poe says, "What is that cologne?" And Kenneth Anger says, "Formaldehyde. I bathe in it." Which I just thought that was what he wore as a cologne.
This is a hopeless story, but he actually came into the office once to pitch when we were over at Crossroads, and I hardly remember anything about it.
Well, he came into the gallery once because he lived right on Hollywood Boulevard, and he came in one time and just sat down and plopped down and was as chatty as can be, and would talk about Lucifer Rising and Scorpio, and talked about the gays and Warhol Factory and all of that stuff, and was just, because he was famously rather truculent, but he was just very chatty with me, and I just really enjoyed it. But anyway, we need to get on to Tina Turner because that's the one that.
It's so sad.
Like, a world without Tina Turner it's unimaginable to me.
Well, did you guys know she was sick? Because I feel like I knew that not long ago. But
I had an inkling when she did the documentary that maybe this was it, sort of thing. Like
I have at least one good friend, my friend Jerome, who is a super fan of Tina, and maybe I just know because he knew somehow. I don't know. But
but she is the only person before the Ike and Tina Turner review, when she was still Anime Bullock, she had a top 10 hit in 1959. So she had hits in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and I think even 2000. Nobody, not even Cher, comes close to that. Right. And when I think of the way, let me say that since, baby, since we've been together, the first time I heard that, and I was at the cusp of the bloom of my gay youth, and I remember they would play it at the Copa Disco, and it was just one of those ones that everybody would scream and shout, and just listening to those opening chords takes me back to being 16.
Well, that was the album, right? Produced by Heaven 17, who were part of that whole Human League era and that whole sort of Cruel World era.
And if you remember before that, she had 10 years where she was nobody, where she was on Hollywood Squares and she was on The Price is Right. I mean, she would do any, and then all of a sudden she had that comeback that is one of the great, rock and roll comebacks.
Well, I would recommend everyone to watch the Michael Schmidt episode of Night Fever, because he had a really good story and relationship with Tina Turner,
where she was his private dancer. She was doing a little private dancing for him.
Yeah. So rest in perfection, Tina Turner and Kenneth Anger.
Yes. Yeah. And thank you for tuning into the Wow Report on Radio Andy. Thank you, James. I'm glad you're back. Thank you.
Thank you.
And same time, same place next week. Until then, go out and do something that makes the world go
wow.